What I don't like about eXp Realty, and anyone that says their company has no negatives or that there are no areas where the company can improve, well, they're full of it. Every company has its positives and negatives, and most importantly, what works for me doesn't necessarily work for everyone else. This is the beauty of options, and as real estate agents, we've got a lot of options. My name is Jeff Chubb, and I have a team, the Chubb Homes team, and I work in Boston metro market. I joined eXp Realty about 5 years ago and have seen a lot of changes since then. Some good, some indifferent. Really can't think of any that are necessarily bad, come to think about it, but here are my eXp Realty negative reviews, if you will. Facebook Workplace. Working for eXp Realty is going to require you to use Facebook Workplace. This is their main way of communication in the company and is one of the things that I really do not like about eXp. This may be perfect for everyone else, but for me, it's just one more platform for me to log on to and follow. And I love email. I would prefer everything to be an email. I understand that I'm old school and will say that this is something that I have learned to deal with, but it's something where I've actually, quite frankly, started to see some value to. But again, I will admit that I'm a dinosaur here, but I will say that their workplace literally has something for everyone and everything. If you have a question or an issue, you're going to get support from a vast network of agents, which is pretty cool. Now, how the agent-to-agent referrals work on Workplace, not a big fan. This is probably one of my biggest eXp Realty complaints. I don't like the way referrals are handled at eXp because being a top producer, I miss the way that RE/MAX agents would go about finding other RE/MAX agents for a referral. I found that many people would go onto the RE/MAX database and search for the top producers, which really benefited me from a referral standpoint. And if you're not a top producer, then quite frankly, you might just love this process. Now at eXp, company referrals work a lot like they do on Facebook referral forums, like lab coat agents. It becomes a mad dash and ultimately the first to respond in a popularity contest. And often these agents are not well qualified and rarely vetted, but they will get the referral lead. And in my opinion, this rewards the idle agents that quite frankly aren't very busy. Now, reputation at eXp in the real estate community is another thing. There are a lot of negative reviews about eXp Realty when you view online. Now, these reviews are mostly from other agents that have never joined eXp. You're gonna see a lot of negativity from our competitors. Hell, heck, you're gonna see a lot of negativity nowadays, pretty much anywhere you go. But whether it's deserving or not, it is our reality. So for many eXp Realty, the negative perception in the real estate community, I think, is one. I believe the negative perception has become a lot less dominant in conversations as it's now become one of the top brokers in the country. And that perception is going to continue to diminish as we see more and more top producers in our industry join our ranks as well. And before leaving RE/MAX, I felt that eXp was just a fad and would never last. I didn't think the model was sustainable and ultimately believed the Kool-Aid that I was being fed by the traditional brokerages. I learned that these traditional brokerages feed this Kool-Aid in order to keep me right where they are. If you can't beat your competition, then trash them and hope for the best. Now, disclosures signed. I understand the reasoning here. We should always be crossing our T's and dotting our I's. We are also a public company, so we're held to a little bit higher of a standard, but I do find some of the disclosures that are required are kind of getting annoying. I guess you could say that I'm really nitpicking here a little bit, but it's not something that I had to do with my old brokerage, and like I said, I'm a dinosaur. In the end, I know the wire fraud advisory and home inspection fact sheet forms only protect me from future liability. And with this and so many recent sales that didn't have home inspections, there's probably a really good possibility that I will love this home inspection form soon. And I do understand from a legal perspective why eXp needs the affiliated business disclosure, where it discloses to the consumer the other business interests that eXp actually owns. Even though I understand it, and I should appreciate it, I do find them annoying. It's just one more thing. But having the saving grace here for me is that eXp actually has a transaction coordination team, and I have a transaction coordinator who's dedicated to me and my team. Now, I pay eXp really short money per transaction. It's $250, and they handle all of the paperwork plus all the other paperwork while managing the entire deal from under agreement to closing. The closing coordinator has been game-changing, as it is a lot less expensive than when I had my own in-house closing coordinator. Now, no water cooler conversations. The negative for some considering eXp Realty is that there are no water cooler conversations of that thrilling football game or some political debate. I guess this one just became positive real quickly, huh? But it took me a while to get really used to this when I left my old office. Ultimately, I miss the people there and those productivity-killing conversations, quite frankly. That was just the hardest part for me when making my decision to leave. And in the end, I realized these friendships would continue after I left and that the cost of working there far outweighed these conversations. Now, no standard office. This is something a traditional broker says is a negative, is that there are no brick and mortar offices to eXp. And having no standard office can be difficult. For me, I had outgrown our office space and was really going to go out and start looking for additional office space. So the cost of that new office space for my team was growing to, I was gonna have to bear it anyway. So at first I found a local office share company, kind of like a WeWork, as the first office space that I used. This minimized my expenses and also allowed me additional time and flexibility to go out and really assess my team's needs and find that right space for us. It will also be very interesting to see that kind of the post-COVID world will really shake out. I know there are a lot of big and fancy real estate offices spending big bucks in Boston and in other areas around the country. And I would imagine these footprints are drastically shrinking as people have adapted to that work from home lifestyle. Clients had really rarely stopped by coming to the office before COVID, but after, I'm seeing the client coming to the office even less. Now, the learning curve for SkySlope, this is how eXp really works for the entire back office and deal management is through SkySlope. I know a ton of companies use SkySlope. This is not groundbreaking stuff here, I admit it, and I've gotten used to it. But at our old office, where we just gave them a paperwork packet and a check, and frankly, there was not much paperwork that was needed. And I'll say that I see it now. There probably should have been more paperwork. A great example of this is that eXp requires a copy of the first page of the deed. Again, it makes sense why a document like this is needed. It's just something different and quite frankly annoying. And my wife will tell you, she'll be the first to tell you actually, that I don't do well with change. So again, that closing coordinator that I mentioned earlier, $250 per transaction, has completely taken care of this issue for me. Another thing is 1 million emails a day. All right, well, maybe it's not 1 million emails or notifications, but it sure as heck felt like that. I don't receive 1 million emails from eXp anymore. It took me a couple minutes to figure out that I had to unsubscribe from a bunch of workplace groups that I was automatically registered to when I joined the company. And this drastically reduced the number of emails I received from eXp Realty each and every day. I pretty much only get emails from my broker and then from workplace notifications that involve the eXp Massachusetts work group. It's really been quite glorious. Now, the competition to recruit, if I had to cite the biggest eXp Realty negative, it would be the competition to recruit. Today I hate the competition to recruit just as much as I did the day I joined. I've never picked up the phone for an outbound solicitation and really stay out of the recruiting fray. I'm at eXp to sell real estate and for the lowest cost, which the least liability, not to recruit other agents to the company. And don't get me wrong, I'm always happy to talk with people, but it's not going to be me calling you and begging you to join our company. If people want to talk eXp, then I'm always happy to talk, but it's them reaching out to me instead of me begging them. And I don't like pushy salespeople, and it bothered me that so many eXp agents are like this. And I do understand the why, as there's a ton of money involved, but just don't like it. I will say that as a guy who loves solutions, I really haven't been able to figure out one that would solve this. But this has been an essential to the growth of eXp Realty and allows the company to put resources in other areas rather than recruiting that actually benefits us agents. But this can cause some rifts between friends and fellow eXp associates. It also can create issues for the agent that's joining. A choice to go with one person may offend another, but from a business decision, maybe that choice might just be the one that makes the most sense. Like I said, it sucks. Now, I hate the National Association of Realtors. This one is personal for me. I hate NAR. I believe it is a bureaucracy that sold us agents out a long time ago. It goes back to the decision to sell Realtor.com and continues today with the way they have taken part in the rise of Zillow taking over our industry. My hatred for this organization continues as I believe it is unconstitutional and unethical that I am forced to join an organization just because one person in the entire company has joined. I don't believe this union works in the best interest of us agents and this industry. If it was, they would be up for a serious conversation about increasing the standards of becoming an agent on the state and federal level. Think about how many tests and licenses that you need to pass to be a mortgage broker or a stockbroker. They should also really look at the requirements for continuing education and yearly fees to continue to be an agent. But in the end, I know they're not going to do anything about it because increasing those standards would reduce the amount of agents and thereby reduce their membership. And a reduced membership is a lot of lost revenue. And in the end, it's all about the Benjamins with the National Association of Realtors. This isn't really an eXp Realty bad review, if you will, but one of the National Association of Realtors. eXp Realty is just really the victim, just like so many other brokerages that are forced and thereby force their membership to be part of this organization. Now, these teams that are being created, That's another negative. I even see it here at eXp Realty in Massachusetts, where all of a sudden you have these national teams popping up that try to pass themselves as local or vice versa. They aren't really teams to what I kind of consider the true definition of a team. For some reason, this bothers me. It probably shouldn't. Stay in my lane and stay focused is what I should be doing, but this is a video about things I don't like about eXp, and if you're listening to this point, then you should know that this has been a really great therapy session. Now, anyhow, eXp agents are using the misleading "join my team," and I will give you a million lead headlines to get agents in their downline. There are a couple eXp Realty agents in Massachusetts that are doing this as well. Their team is really just their downline, with those agents working independently, then giving a referral fee if they close one of those leads. What this does is create a million competing job ads on job sites. As a heads up, by the way, you can't advertise on a job site to join eXp in your downline. It has to be a team, which is why they do this and how it dilutes the ability of us regular teams being able to actually recruit. Now, this doesn't just hurt eXp Realty leaders, but it hurts all team leaders at all companies, as well as the agents that are looking for a real solution and joining a real team. I do have a solution to this problem, however, no one's asked, so I'm gonna stay silent. Now, I think eXp is ruining true masterminding. In the eXp Realty pros and cons section, I definitely have to put that the company is ruining the old days of true masterminding up there. Again, I'm old school. I miss the Howard Brinton days, and I admit that most don't even know who that pioneer is. I know pretty much that every eXp agent would probably argue with me on this one, but opinions are like belly buttons, and I've got mine. Yes, it has increased masterminding downlines and maybe even in the company as a whole, but it has created a culture where people are masterminding or going to conferences to just recruit. I feel like this is the conversation you overhear. Hi, I'm John. Tell me about your business. Here's an eXp Realty application. It has just gotten to be too much. Talk about the benefits if asked. No one wants to hear a freaking sales pitch. Shut up! Heck, they're coaches who are coaches for the specific reason of recruiting people to their downlines. I even know of a certain coach with a backroom deal that will push agents that are in their coaching company to another agent who is an eXp agent in order to split the revenue share. It's something eXp, by the way, has caught on to, and they kicked out that coach. But call me nostalgic, but I miss the days when people would just go to a conference or interact with one another to learn and do better, not to just enrich themselves. So at the end of the day, I know it's a certain few that have created this type of negative culture, and those are also the people that are, quite frankly, the most successful at recruiting and enrich themselves to an extent that I probably can't imagine. As I mentioned before, I get it. As someone said so long ago, don't hate the player, hate the game. That being said, I'm still here. So with all of that being said, is eXp Realty a good company, and is eXp really worth it? I'm still here. And reason as to why is that this lemon is quite frankly worth that squeeze. There's not a perfect company out there, and there is a company out there that doesn't have any negatives. eXp Realty is just like every other company just like that. While eXp isn't for everyone, it is for me. I'm a high D personality, which makes me very calculating. If I was to make a long list of things I love about eXp, which is a side note I did, and that video is right up here, it wouldn't be as long. But those positives are so big that it outweighs this long list of negatives. These negatives are kind of like the equivalent of a paper cut on an elephant, if you will. The cut is there, and in this case, there's a bunch of cuts, but they aren't enough to affect that elephant on its day-to-day life. If you're curious to know more about eXp Realty and are looking to have a frank conversation about the pros and cons and if it's good for you, then I'm happy to do so. Obviously, our conversation is 100% confidential, and you can reach me by email at jeff@boston2.com or go to bookchubb.com. Our office number is 617-480-2600. And while I don't beg people to come join the company and join my downline, I always love talking to people and helping people grow their business. And that is what being an upline member of eXp is all about. You help those below. If you're interested in eXp and don't have a sponsor, then I would love to chat with you. And by the way, the video on the screen right now, that is the video with all the positives of eXp Realty. You should probably click it. You're going to be glad you did.